G'day everybody, it's Gavin Hardy here again, and today I just wanted to talk about herb and spice plants that we can grow in the garden in Brisbane and southeast Queensland. So the plants I'm going to have a look at today are really suitable for growing in pots, on the balcony, or in the garden, in the backyard. So let's come and check out some of these great herbs and spices for growing in our neck of the woods. Okay, so I'm into a bit of spice. So here is chilli. Chilli is a great plant for both the pots and in the garden. This particular variety is a bird's eye chilli, and you can see that it's a shrub that grows to about 1 metre. At maturity, it might get a bit higher than that, and it's yielding a lot of chilies. As you can see, bird's eye chilies are quite hot, but there's lots of varieties of chilli that you can get. One of the great things about chilli is that I grow it in this food forest to shade plants below it. And if we come across here, I'll just walk through to another part of the food forest. You'll see there's another bird's eye chilli growing here, but it's growing in a lot of shade. So chilies do enjoy shade as well as full sun. And it's got a pineapple growing below it. So it's part of that sort of classic food forest system. And I love chilies because of the pungency that they provide to dishes like chilies, like curries, I should say, and other dishes. So yeah, really recommend chilies. One thing to note though with bird's eye chilies is that they are a bit weedy. They are recognised as a weed in this part of the world, but if you manage them properly, you will get a lot of benefit out of them. Lemongrass. So there's a couple of different types of lemongrass that are suitable for growing in this part of the world. There's the taller growing variety that gets to about 2 metres, and that's what we're looking at the moment. It's great as a chop and drop mulch. So as you can see, this has been clipped back and mulch has been created as a result. You can also do that with the smaller growing variety. So the smaller growing variety gets to about 750 millimetres high. Used as a chop and drop mulch. Also used as a barrier plant for preventing weeds from coming into the garden if the plant is grown on the edge of a garden bed. And of course, lemongrass lends that superb flavour to Southeast Asian cuisine, particularly the cuisine of Thailand. So here's another great herb for growing in southeast Queensland, Mexican coriander or perennial coriander. As the name implies, it has a wonderful coriander flavour, and I use it a bit for putting into salsas and salads. It's a great plant because it does provide that coriander flavour, but it is a long-lasting plant which will survive at least 2 or 3 years, unlike the normal coriander that you would buy in the shops. As the name implies, Mexican coriander comes from Central America, South America, and across to the Caribbean. And you can see that with this particular plant that it's put out flower heads, and it's going to put out some seeds very soon. I'll collect those seeds and save them and grow on new plants. But the other great thing about Mexican coriander is that it does seem to self-seed fairly easily. In fact, this particular plant in the pot has just come up by itself. The way you use it is to harvest the leaves, chop them up and put them into your dishes. So I can really recommend Mexican coriander. So another fairly unusual herb for Brisbane gardeners is 5-in-1 herb, or sometimes called mother of herbs or Spanish sage. It grows fairly readily here, seems to enjoy part shade to full shade, and it's a plectranthus related to the coleus family of plants. You can see here that this particular plant is trailing up and over the balustrade of the balcony, and it's really enjoying itself. If you have a look around here over the top of the balcony, it's trailing right over the top, and it does have these wonderful flowers as well. So yeah, it's a really interesting one, a bit unusual. It's used in meat dishes, potato dishes, that sort of thing. It's also been known to be battered, so the individual leaves are harvested. Perhaps the younger leaves are battered, and I guess they're fried and then eaten. So yeah, really interesting herb for Brisbane and southeast Queensland gardeners. Perhaps the easiest herb to grow in this part of the world, in my view at least, is chickweed. So chickweed is so easy to grow that, as the name implies, it'll come up in your garden by itself. But it is a wonderful little plant because it creates such a lovely herb to grow and eat. I use this plant in salads, in soups, and in sandwiches. Really refreshing taste. Chickweed, really recommend it. So this is Italian parsley or flat leaf parsley, a great plant for growing in Brisbane and southeast Queensland. Enjoys semi-shade to full shade situations, and it's a really good companion plant because it provides an aromatic scent that repels pests like aphids and the like. It can get affected by moth caterpillars, but they're fairly easily picked off. Like all the parsleys, Italian parsley is an accumulator of minerals, so minerals like iron, and provider of vitamins, so like vitamin A and some of the B12 complex vitamins. It's a great plant for integrating into a permaculture garden or a food forest. I've got it integrated in amongst some strawberry at the moment, and amongst another really great herb, which is Chinese chives. So Chinese chives, as the name implies, has that sort of chive flavour, that oniony flavour about it. It has a pungent aroma, again, great for repelling pest insects. It then sets up flower heads which attract beneficial insects. It's fairly readily self-seeding, as is the Italian parsley, and I use it a little bit as a border plant in the garden. So I really can recommend Chinese chives. So two more herbs showing here. One is nasturtium. Nasturtium is a lovely plant because it has edible flowers and edible leaves, particularly the fresh young leaves. It's also a great plant because it attracts bees into the garden and other beneficial insects. And it's sort of plant that comes up in winter in the subtropics. So from June through to October, and then it'll start to die down in the warmer months. But yeah, I love it because you can harvest the flowers and use them in a salad. Really good for that. And then hidden amongst this nasturtium plant is rosemary. And rosemary, I think, is probably the most common herb grown in Brisbane. You see it everywhere. in old gardens and even in newer gardens. It's a good bee attractant and yeah, used in a lot of different dishes.